Okay, so we're now back at the regular syllabus schedule, and some things I'll point out that you'll see on a week-by-week basis, a lot of details that you didn't see on the one I just showed you, and things that are blue are available on the Google Drive, and it'll tell you specifically read this paper, read that paper. Like for the first week, read the Unit 1 notes. For week number 2, read the Unit 2 notes. Also, there's a data pre-processing principal component analysis. I'll probably change that around at some point. But if you read the Unit 1, Unit 2 notes for next week, you ought to be in good shape. Sometimes I have within the notes this background reading or background papers. And essentially, if it's in gray, it means it's for your benefit, but I'm not going to test on it. And it's not required reading. So you see assignments, like assignment 2, number of points, the due date, 7 p.m. Usually assignments are due at the beginning of class unless specified otherwise. Okay. One thing I want to point out, and if you've had me before in a class, I've done this before, but when we have the midterm, and this date is not right, but when we have a midterm, usually the Tuesday before the midterm at 7 p.m., I give students an opportunity to submit questions. And you will find a template in terms of how to lay out the questions on the Google Drive. Now, as I said, this is an option, not required. And the idea is that I give students a chance to think about what was important up to this point in the semester and reflect back on it and come up with questions. Now, if you do decide to submit questions, you need to strip out any individual information, like take out your name, your student ID, and also when you email it to me by the 7 p.m. the night before the midterm, specify whether you want me to post your questions on the Google Drive. Some students are very competitive and they just want it, turned in, not shared with anybody. Others share with everyone else. It's your call. Either way is fine. Okay, let me talk about other policies. Okay, homework and projects are due at the time that they are prescribed, beginning in class, whatever class. And one of the things that's important to me is to take deadlines very serious. For example, I've known small companies, they have, if they have a proposal due at Washington, D.C., like 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, if they don't get the proposals in, they are automatically eliminated. And the idea is that from the, let's say, the National Institute of Health, if they have these proposals, they're going to get over 100, maybe 200 proposals. So any reason to eliminate a proposal makes their life easier. So that's why we're going to pay very careful attention to deadlines. If you are late, then there's a 10% deduction per 24-hour period. Okay, so try not to be late on the assignments. There will not be any extra credit assignments or projects in this class. Okay, all homework projects due must be typed, not handwritten. Okay, a cover page is expected for all assignments unless specified otherwise. And then this section is very important. For this class, I take cheating very seriously. And the reason is because if a student cheats in the class, and let's say worst case, cheats in all the classes, gets a 4.0, goes out for a job, knows nothing. Well, if they get interviewed, let's say they interviewed IBM, IBM says, well, gee, that student didn't know anything. And so as a consequence, what happens is that it gives UHCL a very poor reputation and tarnishes the computer science, software engineering, and all the different programs at UHCL. So that's why I take it serious. Now, things that can happen, you might get an F in the class. I mean, it could be very severe, or you can get a 0 on the assignment, or things like you get a 0 on the assignment, you don't get a curve on the midterm or the final, and you don't get a curve in your final course grade. So this is very important to pay attention to. And Sometimes if the assignment allows you to work in groups of 2 and your partner cheats, you might be the victim of some stupidity of your partner. So one point is to choose your partner very carefully on those assignments when you can work in the groups of 2. Also, if you happen to witness cheating, you're expected to kind of report that to me. Okay, here's some links on plagiarism. If you have to turn in a paper, how to write a paper and not plagiarize. In terms of tests and quizzes, in certain classes I use Blackboard for facilitating quizzes. We're not going to be doing that this semester, okay? So we're not going to be using Blackboard. There may be in-class quizzes, so be prepared. Also, in terms of exams, if you miss an exam because of some emergency, that's fine. Medical emergency, that's fine. And I would like immediate notification, but sometimes if you have a car accident, you just can't do that. So that is reasons for missing exam. Sometimes students want to schedule a plane flight and leave and take the exam early. I don't do that, okay? Because you might save a couple $100, but your investment in your education is worth several $100,000s over the lifetime. So changing the exam because of a plane flight schedule, that's not acceptable, okay? If you miss an exam, sometimes students think, well, if I miss the exam, I get to, take the original exam. Well, I give a different exam, and it's harder and different from the original exam. So please try to make every effort to be there for the midterm and the final. Okay. You're responsible for all readings assigned throughout the semester. Okay, that's kind of Blackboardy question. Okay, I think we're covered there. Let me talk about some other miscellaneous items in the syllabus. One of which is if you have a disability, and sometimes I've had students, they need tests in like size 20 font, or they need assignments on blue paper. If you have anything that I need to be aware of, please go to the disability services and also make me aware in the first week of classes. Okay, you're expected to come fully prepared to class. Now, what does that mean? For me, I go to a lot of great effort to make fantastic notes for this class, and so I want you to print off the notes. I highly recommend getting a 2-inch binder to put the notes in, and I recommend you read the notes at least 5 times before class. And the idea of reading the material before class is that you figure out you know what you don't know. And preparation to me is very important in terms of building your confidence and dealing with your fears. Okay. Withdrawal from the class will happen on a very rare basis. Bring hard copy of notes to class as opposed to laptops. The reason is we'll be using laptops for maybe software like Wicca or R, but I've been in I've gone past other classes that have laptops, and what happens is that the students have the laptops, they're surfing the web, they're really not giving their undivided attention. So I'm expecting to have hard copy of the notes during the class, okay, so you won't be distracted. One thing that I do find annoying is the use of cell phones. I've had students kind of texting during class, they're looking down and they're smiling, and they got the cell phone between their legs, and, normally people don't look down between their legs and smile, but, that's not acceptable. And so it's also rude to other students in this class, so make sure you turn off the cell phones prior to coming to class. And if there is an instance where a cell phone goes off during class or a student's texting, I will take 3 points off your final grade for each time it occurs. Now that can add up, and I've had one student lose 9 points because of that. So make sure you turn off your cell phones prior to class. Okay, the attendance policy, you're allowed to miss one class, and this first week doesn't count because class got canceled because of the hurricane. But going forward, if you miss a class, that's fine. But if you miss more than one class, you'll lose 2 points for each class that you miss. Okay. Now, in terms of at the end of the semester, letters of recommendation, if you earned an A in this class, I'll be glad to provide a letter of recommendation. If you've averaged over an A- or higher in several classes you've taken with me, I'll be glad to provide a letter. I usually do not write a letter. You know, if a student has like a B and had a B only for the class, because it's hard to write something as positive as I'd like, so please be mindful of that. For those students who are new, I highly recommend you see your advisor, complete what's called candidate plan of study. And if I'm your advisor, you can be available and see me during office hours. 2 other points here, one of which is pay very careful attention to your email correspondence. Now, I know students, they do the texting and they do the abbreviations, things like that. And it's okay to write to your friends like that. But when you're writing to a professor or a future employer, you want to be very careful. And here's a compilation of some things I've seen over the, these are actually from students, and I put it together. Dear Betticher, lowercase b, and they misspelled my name. Is there any chance of regrading my final grade, missing a question mark? As lowercase I am very nervous. In exam, I couldn't be able to attempt properly. You know how attentive in class, and can you please grade me considering my class participation? So it's like a run-on sentence, a lot of grammar things, lowercase u, lowercase I. Also, do I have a chance of re-exam because C grade drives my GPA low, which results in losing my scholarship. So I misspelled that and losing too many O's here. Please consider my request, some student. So when I see things like that, it makes me not to take somebody's intellectual capacity very serious. Also, I've had students write for TA positions, write careless letters, and I think, if you're that careless to write to me as a TA, how the heck are you going to be a TA? So things to be careful of is like because, B-C-O-Z, R instead of A-R-E, U instead of Y-O-U, lowercase I instead of uppercase I, and starting a sentence with lowercase letter. Now, one thing is culturally, some international students, they use the word doubt instead of question. And let me explain the difference between doubt and a question. Question means you have a curiosity. Doubt implies a negative attitude. So if I said, I doubt you're going to pass this class, that's a terrible thing to say. And it imposes a judgment on you. And so if you doubt something, you don't have much confidence in something. So you're better off using the word question, like I have a question about assignment 2, means you're confused, you want me to clarify something. If you have a doubt about assignment 2, that means you think, well, that's not a good assignment. So please be mindful of that it could turn off people and you don't even know where you're turning off people. So use question instead of doubt. Finally, I disregard anonymous email. So sometimes a student or somebody writes to me and says, the student in the second row with the pink polka dot shirt was cheating on an assignment. Well, I can't do anything about that if you're not able to identify yourself. So please, if you have a question, concern, try to write your actual name instead of some anonymous email. So that's the review of the syllabus, and we'll stop here. Thank you very much.